trust your way to a big payday. That's what we're talking about next on the Two Business Guys Mastermind. Enjoy. This business podcast, the Two Business Guys Mastermind, uncovers for you secrets and share tips and tricks to entrepreneurship as they mastermind on how to have startup, operational, and overall business success so that you can go on to get better results. Enjoy. I can tell you, entrepreneurs, you should hear the talks that Rob and I have before the talk, right? You ever heard of the meeting before the meeting? Well, the talk before the talk. And we get into it. And Rob, I'm just going to bring in that last line that you said before I hit the record button.
All right. So the thing we were talking about, just to give a little context, we were talking about leadership and the difference between management and leadership. And so what I said is most people are busy managing the work instead of leading the enterprise.
Okay, now before we go on a tangent on that, today's episode, we're going to be talking about, the trust factor here, right? We're going to be talking about how, if you're not trusting others enough to make money in your business, and here's what we mean by that. If you're playing in your own little sandbox, now you may have heard us talk a little bit about this before, but we are hearing it over and over again with entrepreneurs. They don't want to put their ideas out there. They don't want to go and get mentors. They don't want to talk in a group. Why? Rob, tell them why.
Because they don't trust anybody. And it's interesting because this space that we're in, really, like, this idea for me came from the fact that so many entrepreneurs, like, first of all, entrepreneurship is a lonely enterprise, right? Like, if you go to the heart of it, you have a vision that only you can see. No one else in the world can see what you can see. And you're endeavoring, you're struggling, you're straining to bring this to the world. And everywhere you go, you've got to explain this vision that other people can't see to other people. So it's something that just by its nature creates this kind of loneliness. You add to that the fact that we have a natural distrust of people, right? And we don't have a way to allow people to prove their worth to us, to prove their fidelity, to prove their loyalty to us. It creates this kind of perfect storm of loneliness and solitude, and really taking a lot longer to get stuff done. And so that's the thing that to me, I wanted to kind of address today, because I know a lot of entrepreneurs are out there. They're feeling like, excuse me, how do I choose a mentor? How do I, like, they've read the books, they've seen the videos, they know they should have a mentor, they should have a coach, they know that they should hire employees, they know that they should be doing all this stuff, but they're stuck in that space of, how do I get there? And for those of you all that haven't even gotten to the should part, just let's be clear, that's what we're talking about today. Like, it is losing you money. Your lack of trust is costing you money, because it's making you do stuff that you are not capable or not willing or not able or don't have enough time or not the best person to do. And so you're doing the work in your business less effectively, less efficiently, and more costly than you could be doing it otherwise. So it's costing you money from the beginning. So that's kind of the big piece for today that I want to kind of bring
to that point, man. I had a guy over the summer, and great idea. Let me say that differently. I don't know if it was a great idea. He doesn't know. He thinks it's a great idea, but he never put it out into the marketplace to tell.
There you go.
Now he had spent thousands of dollars protecting the idea. He spent hundreds of dollars putting pictures to the idea, right? He spent, I can't tell you how much time in everything other than presenting the idea.
There you go.
So what happened? The idea is still on his idea rack.
Exactly.
And he was so afraid of so many things. And my job, of course, was to help him, and before I would work with him, though, is I says, are you willing to do, and I have kind of a checklist. And this is something that we'll share with you guys. If you guys want us to come in and help you with this, and to help you just put that ideal out there in a specific fashion. Now, when Rob and I are working together, even in our separate businesses, we have specific ways that we start putting your idea out there. It's kind of like a movie trailer. Have you ever seen one of those where the movie, you go, oh my gosh, well, the movie's not done.
Exactly.
In fact, the movie may not even be really started. Someone had a concept, someone did a treatment on that idea, and then blah, blah, blah. Now they put it out there to see if it garners interest. They put a little website, go to xmovie.com. Then if people start flooding and saying, I can't wait till this, I can't wait till that, then they kind of put it out there, right? Incorporate some of the things that they've gotten back in feedback. Now we've got specific ways that we help you do that. If you want us to do, help you with this, put some words in the comment section. This topic is going to be a tough one, I think, today, Rob, because, we both have experiences and then we both got our different viewpoints. Now, my viewpoint is I used to be I'm going to play in my own sandbox. I don't want my ideas out there, you know what I mean? Because, hey, I don't want anybody to steal the idea. And then I started getting into the business really deeply and start saying, you know what, if you don't have an idea worth stealing,
nobody's going to steal money anyway. Exactly.
Right? You want people to be able to adopt this, especially if you're going into a new market. Entrepreneurs, listen to what we're saying. You're going into a new market.
This point that you just made,
ideas out there doing something for you, creating some kind of and bringing in competition.
We need to stop on this point that you just made, because I think it's too important to just go past. You just dropped the gem, and people need to recognize. So often we're avoiding problems that we quote unquote don't want without realizing that those are actually problems that you want. Right? Such as having an idea that somebody would want to steal. Because here's the thing that you need to understand. Nobody wants to steal something that's not making money.
Exactly.
So it's just like there's certain cars that you don't have to lock on the street because ain't nobody taking it, right? Like the car that you got with the rusted out floorboard and, it goes put, and it's got a big black cloud of smoke. You ain't never got to lock the doors on that car. You never got to do nothing because ain't nobody ever taking it, right? But there's other cars that people are going to take. And so many of us, when we start our business, we don't realize that the first thing is you have to prove that you have an idea that somebody is willing to take. And here's the key. It's not because you think it's good. It's because you can get other people to think it's good. There's a book that Randy has been, kind of the ideas Randy has been referencing. It's called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. And the thing that he's talking about in figuring out and the checklist that we talk about and all the rest of that type of stuff is so many of us think that Coca-Cola, McDonald's, movie theaters, all these new ideas that we see pop up, by the time you see them, they seem like they're fully formed. They seem like it's this huge business. It seems like all of this stuff is happening. Even take movies, for example. Think about the fact that they do trailers for Star Wars movies and Will Smith movies and stuff 6 months before the movie drops. Now, here's the thing that I want everybody to pay attention to in there. They haven't finished editing the movie yet. They haven't started thinking about doing the press runs or doing any of the rest of that type of stuff yet. They are putting it out there to figure out how much money they're going to put into marketing this movie based off of the initial furor that they get from putting the movie out there. And depending on that, you'll see there's shorter press runs if it doesn't get a lot of buzz. You'll see certain movies go directly to streaming if there's not a whole bunch of buzz. You'll see all this type of stuff, but you've got to watch the entire cycle. So many of us see the end of the cycle and we think that's where we need to be in our business. And that's one of the biggest keys. You gotta develop trust in mentors and coaches so that you can learn things about the cycle that you don't know, that you can't see from where you are currently. Right?
Ooh, that's big, man. That's big. I think that whole, what if we said something like this? And this may be something that Rob and I just have to do, right? If we put out a book out there, Trust Your Way to Six Figures, what would that mean? And then incorporate maybe these ideas. I don't know. You guys tell us, right? Is that something that Trust Your Way to a six-figure business? Trust your way, right? Trust your way. Then we could potentially incorporate what that means, what that looks like, break that out. In fact, maybe we'll put a template together. If you guys are telling us you're having problems and we hear from enough of you guys that are saying, you know what, I'm having a problem with this. Now, if you're just dropping into the program, we implore you to go ahead and like the channel, make comments on the channel, subscribe to the channel. We're putting these out every single week, right? So we can bring this information to you. We are out there studying and reading. We got books, and we actually have coaching programs and all of this stuff that we do together and separately, right? And I can tell you, we're bringing all of that and we're doing everything we can to condense it, right? Trust me, we can both get going. And next thing you know, it's 2 hours long, right? And you may go, you know what, I'm not taking a 2 hour anything. But here's what we were really trying to get to when we're talking about that trust factor, right? Trusting your way to a 6-figure payday. We're saying get in with those mentorship groups, get into these coaching sessions, right? If you can find one that is low cost, depending on your situation, or if something's costing $25,000 to become a part of the Genius Network, right? Or something like that, right? We are saying get into these groups because an idea could change everything, or change in perspective. That's happened to me. I can't tell you how many times where I think my ladder's up against the right wall, and then I climb up and look around and go, wait a minute, the action's over there. And I spent all this time, all this money, all this energy putting my ladder up against the wrong wall, right? Referencing the idea that you can spend so much time basically doing the wrong thing.
Right? Now, I wanna push back, because I know that if I wasn't us and I didn't know what we knew and I was listening to us right now, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds great, Randy and Rob. But how do you know who to trust? How do you know what program is good for you? How do you decide what to get into or what to do? So talk to the people a little bit, Randy, about what are some of the things that you consider when you're looking for a mentor, looking for a coach, looking for a program to join, things like that.
Yeah. And oftentimes this is what we hear. We'll hear something like, I want to be in the room with people like me, right, at my own level. Well, think about that for a minute. If you're not at the level of someone that's making millions of dollars, they're asking, who is this joker? Why are they here? Right? Unless they've got the heart of a giver, right? Like an Alex Hormozy that says, I want to get you up to $3 to $5 million so you can afford to work with me, right? He said, I'm giving away everything. I'm not selling nothing. Here's a book for $1. Right. So when I'm looking for personally, if I'm looking for a mentor, of course you want to be in the room with people that are thinking differently to you. But I'm telling you, that cab driver, that person that's like riding a bike, they may have an insight that changes everything. Right. But here's one of the checklist ideas, right? If you don't necessarily want someone that has the same thinking as you. You want someone that has sound thinking that may be very different than you. So if you're saying to yourself in the evaluation stage, is this person more like me? Well, what are you doing? You're inviting groupthink, right? You want someone to validate you. That's not what you're looking for in a mentor. You're looking for a mentor or a coach that will say, yeah, that idea was BS. and they can say it in whatever way they can that gets you to thinking differently, having different insights, pushing back against that idea because you want the energy of that room. So I want a mentor, and you should be looking for a mentor that provides you with the kind of pushback that gets you going, that gets you insightful, that gets you angry sometimes, because from those emotions can spring a way to look at something differently than you may have. Because guess what? You may be comfortable right now because everybody's validating. The wife, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, or whatever is patting you on the back. Oh, that's a good idea. They're not telling you, well, okay, if it's such a good idea, why isn't it out there making money? Imagine a coach saying that to you. If you're so smart, why aren't you rich? Kind of a thing, right? If you're so whatever, get to that point where you can accept that from someone.
Yeah.
Right? But for me, criteria number one, will they push back on an idea that I may have? Give me an insight that inspires me, whether it's from anger, fear, whatever it is. Will they be that person for me? So that's evaluation point number one.
Yeah.
Will they be and think differently than I do? Be
No, I like
willing
that. I like that. I think for me, the first thing that I try to figure out when I'm getting into, and this is something that I had to learn after getting into a whole bunch of stuff and figuring out this didn't work. This wasn't what I wanted. This wasn't what I wanted. This wasn't what I wanted. I learned that the first thing that I have to do is I have to say, what's my objective? What am I trying to learn? What am I trying to get? What am I trying to experience? Because a lot of times I got into programs that didn't give me what I wanted, but they gave me what they said they were going to give me. Right. And because I wasn't clear on exactly what I wanted, I was just kind of clinging to whatever was out there, just grasping for straws. And so then I wind up disappointed. But when I did the evaluation, I had to look at, did they lie? Did they say that they were going to do something they didn't do? And I was like, nah, this is what they said they were going to do. This is what they did. That's not what I wanted. And so the first step for me is to really look at what does good look like? So if I play this out, if I engage in this coaching relationship, in this mentorship, in this mastermind, whatever it is that I'm in, what does good look like for me at the end of this? Because once I know that, now I can go and look for people that are saying exactly that are saying, this is what you will get from working with me. Right. And I can also listen to people who are saying less than that and say, do I want to take a step along this pathway? Do I want to go with them to get here? Right. But instead of me being disappointed because I'm not, 10 steps down the way, I heard them say, I'll take you 3 steps down that pathway. I'm like, okay, 3 steps is good. And now I got what I wanted from that program. So I think step number 1 for me is always defining success, figuring out what does it look like if this decision is successful, and being reasonable about the outcome. I know when I was a younger entrepreneur, one of the things that I used to think is, I'm gonna make this one decision and it's gonna change everything. It's like, that's not how it works, right? Like, I always tell our mentees, right? Entrepreneurship is a marathon. It's not a sprint. And here's the thing with a marathon. Exactly, right? Here's the thing with a marathon. It don't matter how fast you run mile 1, you still got 25 to go. Right. So
I love that. I love when you say that. That's good.
Right. And I think a lot of people get in this idea of, I'm going to get there fast. And it's like, even if you get there fast, right? Like, let's say you make $100,000 in 3 months. Okay. Now you got $100,000 in 3 months. What's your next goal? Right. Like, are you done with business? Are you good? Can you live off $100,000 for the rest of your life? Oh, no, you need to actually be sustainable. You need to actually do some other stuff. And so in understanding that, you realize that even if you hit your major goal, right? Like, I remember one of my major goals in business was to build a 6-figure business. It's like, if I could do that, then everything will be good. Right. Then I built a 6-figure business. I was like, oh, it's not everything is good. You got to have multiple 6 figures to make the type of money that I was thinking I was trying to make. And so you start learning and understanding how business works. And so now I know that in 5 years, I want to have a multi-million-dollar business, but our first step along that way is to go to 7 figures, right? We're in 6 figures. Now we're trying to get to 7 figures, and we're building a team and we're building the foundation so that I'm not just going to hit 7 figures. We're going to routinely, systemically, sustainably have 7 figures, right? And then, excuse me, and then we'll build to sustainably having 8 figures. And that's the mindset that you get once you know what success looks like and you really get clear on what you feel. So I guess to that point, my first thing that I would say to people is really get clear on what it is you're trying to get, what you're trying to get to. And if you're like, I don't even know where to start, then that might be the first thing that you're trying to do. You're trying to get somebody to just help you lay out a plan, lay out a pathway of your next 3 steps. That's all you need. They're not going to get you $100,000. They're not going to get you $1 million. They're going to get you the next 3 steps.
That's right.
And then you can enjoy that and move to the next step.
And I love what, Alex talks about, right? Alex Hormozy talks about this, right? He says, listen, the reason why that coaching program or that thing you bought didn't work is because you thought that was the one thing, as Rob said, the one decision that was going to change everything, right? So you got excited. But what you find is, wait a minute, I needed a series of skills to make the whole thing work, right? It's like, if I use a very simple example of, well, to ride a bike successfully, all I need to do is pedal. You want to bet? Because
Yeah.
if you have no experience on, oh, I got to hold these things called handlebars straight,
You will ride a bike successfully for about 0.5 seconds.
and you will crash. So let's think about that simple illustration, that it is a series of things, right? And I don't know
Yes.
what took me back to riding a bike, but it becomes, if you ever notice anybody that's showing their kid how to ride a bike or whatever, right? It's like, they're pedaling. Well, you have to pedal and you have to do this thing called steer. And then while you're steering, you got to make sure that you got proper control of speed. And then you got to know where the brakes are, all of that.
Right.
Right now, think about this series of skills. So when we start thinking about how you have to trust your way to a six-figure payday, right?
Mm-hmm.
It really means if you're trying to go in a particular direction,
Mm-hmm.
when you get the information in, and you start saying to yourself, and let's say that culture, that person that's come into your life, that mentor is coming to your life, and it says, okay, to get to six figures, you have to hire one person.
Mm-hmm.
But you go, well, I don't want an employee because I don't trust them. They'll take my idea, they'll leave me, start their own thing. I've heard that, Rob. I've heard that from
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs. Well, I don't know if I want to tell them. Literally just recently.
Yeah.
Well, if I show them how to cook this way, they'll just start their own restaurant. And I go, well, what? I says, absolutely. But you encourage them in a way that you'll say to them, I could be your first investor. So
There you go.
absolutely. Do you think
Yeah.
McDonald's is worried about the other McDonald's restaurant doing it a certain way? They're saying
Exactly.
absolutely. So
Exactly.
can you trust your way to a
And
six-figure payday?
that's the whole thing. And so there's two nuggets in there. The first one I think is the next shift, right? Because we talked about, can you trust mentors? Can you trust coaching? Can you trust masterminds, programs, stuff like that? But then that second piece, like you said, employees. Can you trust them with your stuff? Can you trust them to do the job well? Can you trust them to not leave? All the rest of that. And then the second piece of what's your actual goal, right? Again, so many of us think about these ideas that we have as if they're just ours. And the thing that I want everybody to really pay attention to right here, from the perspective of, if they take it and start a new one or compete with you and all the rest of that, I want you to think about it from this perspective. The goal that you have, the dream that you have, is about changing the world. It's about improving people's lives. It's about doing something that matters. And the only way that it works as a business is that other people see it and say, yes, this brings value to me, so I'm willing to give money to it. That's the only way it works. Now, the beauty of it is, right, and when I talk to my clients, right, corporate clients and every my small business clients, because I talk about leadership, and we talk about the fact that, if you give a person a fish, you feed them for a day. If you teach a person to fish, you can feed them for a lifetime. But we take leadership even further than that, because the whole idea is this: I'm just one teacher of fishing. If I'm the only teacher of fishing in the world, everybody that I teach to fish will know how to fish for their entire lifetimes, but they can't teach nobody. So when they die, nobody else knows how to fish. Everybody's starving again. So all that work that I did goes away.
Wow.
But if you
That's
can
legacy
teach a
leadership.
person, exactly, right? But if you can teach a person to teach a person to fish, you can feed the whole world forever.
Teach a person to teach a person. Wow. Are you hearing the power in that, everybody? Right? So that's saying trust enough to get the employee that you can teach, that you can teach to teach, that you can teach to teach to teach. Look,
because
the math
then
is
your
simple.
idea lives on.
The math is simple. And here's the math. Let me ask you guys out there, do you trust this math? I'm getting ready to tell you. 1,000 times 100 equals 100,000. Now, you probably hitting the calculator right now going, well, yeah, man, that's just the math. Well, okay, what if I said it a different way? Now, we're talking about, will you trust your way to a six-figure payday? Here's the math. Will you trust this math? That if you get 1,000 people to pay you $100 a year, you will have created a six-figure payday. All right, math. Now, what if I says, okay, you like that math? That worked out? You put it in the calculator, it came out, right? Okay. What if you got 1,000 people to pay you $100 a month? Do you also have a six-figure payday? Yep. Yes, you do. You just have it faster.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys feeling what I'm saying here? Now, when we're talking about, can you trust your way to a six-figure payday, right? Can you trust your way to making more money in your business? That math always works. Now, the how you do that.
Yes. Now
Now we
here's
can
the
help you
fun
with the
part.
how. This is what
And
we're saying.
here's some extra fun math for you, because we were talking about, what if they take it? What if they want to start their own? What if they want to? Now, 100 times 1,000 is 100,000. But let's do this. Let's say that you create 1,000 people to give you $100 a year, but you teach 10 other people to create 1,000 people who give them $100 a year, but they give you 10 of that 100. So you have 1,000 people that are giving you $10,000, right? So $10 a year, which is $10,000. You do that 10 times, you have another $100,000 business that you literally don't have to do anything for going forward.
Did you guys hear that drop? Listen, there's times when we're having these kind of talks with one another, right? And we say something and we go, God dang, that was pretty good. Right. And it's because this is what we do as the mastermind. Now we both have our own businesses, and we could be over in our little huts doing our own thing. Right. And we get inspired. And sometimes, I'll say, Rob, I'm modeling that tomorrow. So thank you very much, sir. Right. And Rob is saying, hey, bro, this is why we do this. Why we're doing this for you right now is so that it turns on something. And you say, well, how would I get my 1,000 people? Is this a brand new idea? No, Kevin Kelly talked about it all in your 1,000 True Fans, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we've had other books on that subject matter. Did you think Kevin Kelly's over there all mad at somebody that wrote the summary to that book, right? Or that showed you using those ideas? No, because it's I can't even say the word. Proliferating the idea. It is exponentiating the idea.
Exactly.
Right. And if the idea spreads, right, like a virus, what if you had that thing to spread and you're getting a piece of all of that? That's the affiliate model, everybody.
There you go.
It's stuff that you've heard, but we're just explaining it to you a little differently. Now, we as practitioners really can dig in there and show you how, right? If it's that done for you model, you say, hey, I want you guys to come in. You just laid out a blueprint, but I better not build that thing and try to ride in it. You want us to come in? We'll do that for you, right? I mean, this is what we do for a living, individually and then together when we're doing things. We got something coming up. We're going to be wanting to get into. So we're going to, maybe we won't leave the link today, but we've got bringing all of this to you. It might be a webinar. It might be a workshop. It might be we're not going to say seminar. Right now. We're just letting you know that we've got something coming that digs into this, that digs into the how of all the stuff that we've been talking about for the episodes that we've been on.
Yep. Right? We in the lab, we cooking it up.
Now, Rob, continuing on with this thing, entrepreneurs, right, can be in this lonely space, this lonely planet, right? They get a coach. They have to decide on who to get as a mentor, right? And we've got some steps, and we've got some tips, we've got some tricks, we've got some templates, some little things that you can start asking your potential coach, potential mentor. We'll get into that at another time, or we'll leave you a link or something like that if you want us to give that information to you. Leave you.
As a matter of fact, if you would like to get access to our checklist, go ahead and put in the comments interested, and there'll be a link where you can email us and request it. So make sure you check the description of this video later on.
So what else can we tell entrepreneurs along this journey? And again, I just recently had one that said the same thing. I've been waiting to start my business until this is what they said to me. This is until I protect it. And then they had a list, and of all of that, none of it mattered.
Exactly.
And I looked at them, right? I didn't let them off the hook. It was one of those points where I had to be, a little bit tough on them, right? And they were brand new. So I ran the risk of them going, you know what, I'm out of here. This dude, right? And I says, none of that matters. Do you have a customer? No. I said, so you spent time, money, energy protecting something you don't even know if it will sell.
Yep.
And it was that point where they looked at me, and that's the point where you have someone say, forget you, dude. You didn't validate my idea. I no longer like you.
Mm-hmm.
Or you have that inspired entrepreneur that says, I needed that.
Exactly.
And when you get that, you can work with that person.
When the student is ready, the master will appear. But now I've got 3 quotes for that problem that you're talking about right now, Randy. And the first one is, this is one that you will know very well. You've heard it from me many, many times before. Done is better than perfect, right? And that flows from the concept of we cannot allow the perfect to be the enemy of good. And then the third thing that I want to tell people, and this is, it's so important for you all to recognize when you're in this space, when you're trying to create something, when you're trying to build something. Zig Ziglar said this, and I thought it's literally one of the most profound things that I've ever heard somebody say. And it's so simple, but it's so profound. Anything worth doing well is worth doing poorly until you can do it well.
Anything worth doing well
is worth doing poorly until you can do it well. So many of us get caught up trying to be perfect right out the blocks. So many of us think that if we're not amazing, then it's not going to work. And what you have to understand is that success is not built upon perfection. Success is not built upon not making mistakes. That's what we learn in school. But entrepreneurship is the exact opposite of all of that. Success is built upon not staying down. You can fall down as much as you want. You can get knocked down as much as is necessary. But if you are willing to continue to get up and to continue to go and to continue to try, then you will be successful, because the race is not given to the swift nor to the strong, but to the person that endures to the end. Entrepreneurship is a game of, do you have the diligence? Do you have the persistence to learn what you need to learn to make your idea work, to make the pivots, to make the adjustments, to do what you need to do to respond to the marketplace, and to make sure that you bring the value to the marketplace that the marketplace needs. And so it doesn't matter if you're doing it well, right? There were so many things. There were so many iterations that I have done of the programs that I have put out in my organization. At every step along the way, it wasn't in my mind what I had envisioned perfect being, but it was definitely good enough to get money. It was definitely good enough to get paid for. And the beauty of it is, I've then sustained and improved and improved and improved and improved and improved, so that now the value that I'm able to give people is 10x what I was able to give them when I first started.
If you can get money, you can get better.
There we go. Ooh.
Did y'all just
Bars,
hear that?
bars.
I'm excited when I heard. If you can get money, you can get better, right? Now, if they don't give you any money, well, you know what? Maybe you have to refigure this thing. You have to reapproach it. And, and we all have had times where stuff didn't work, right? Mm-hmm. And it does affect you, right? It affects your confidence sometimes. Definitely. Even if you're an entrepreneur. I was thinking about a very, very famous football coach, right? I'm not going to say his name because I don't want anybody, all messed up about it. They just recently, in my opinion, tarnished all that they've done in one season. I'm not going to say who it is. In one season, they made one decision that now has tarnished all that they've accomplished. They tried a new thing outside of where they were successful. But the activities, and I believe it was because they had so much success, they were expecting it at this next level. And they didn't get it. They got frustrated. They got mad. And they made some bad decisions and some bad actions. Mm-hmm. That now that's all you talk about. Oh, they did this to that person. They suck. Mm-hmm. What about all the other years that they suck right now?
Right.
I don't think that person will coach again.
Mm-hmm. Now, and here's the thing. I love that. I love that analogy, because this is the fear, right? This is what everybody struggles with. oh my God, there'll be something that I can't come back from. But here's the caveat that I want to give to that. Here's the counterpoint that I want to give to that. And see, again, this is why we mastermind, right?
Point, counterpoint.
That person, right? I think I know who you're talking about, but just for the sake of the video, whoever they may be, that person right now, everybody's like, they're down, they're out. There's no way they can come back from this. There's nothing they can do, etc. But now what I want you to do is I want you to think through all of the people that you know, specifically celebrities, because those are the easiest stories to follow. Mm-hmm. Think about all of the ones that you know where they've had that moment and then they're back. I'll give you just a couple off the top of my head right now. How many of you all know who a gentleman by the name of Robert Downey Jr. is?
I knew you were going to say that. And they're now Iron Man. Because he was a rough dude coming out.
Right. Now, and I want to be clear, there were 2 times, right? So there was what he had when he was a kid, right, 19, 20, and having the whole rehab and all the rest of that, right? And so then he fell from grace. He's in jail, right? Probation, drug rehab, all the rest of that. Then I want you to go back to, many of you all might not remember this movie, Tropic Thunder. Ben Stiller, Robert Downey Jr., right? And Robert Downey Jr. was in quote unquote blackface, got a lot of backlash. And this was one of those ones where it was like, everybody thought the role was funny, but nonetheless, he still got backlash because like, you just don't do that. So now he had climbed out and somebody just kicked him back in the hole, right? But then again, you move a step further and, oh, Iron Man, right? And he was also in The Soloist with Jamie Foxx and a number of other movies, right? Like the key is being a champion is not about do you get knocked down or not. So many people are afraid of getting knocked down. Here's another stat that I will tell you that liberated me on my entrepreneurship journey, because I was having money struggles. There were problems. There was all these different types of things. And I was, I've told you all about this before. My early entrepreneurship journey was always, I had a secure job. I have 4 degrees. I always had some way of making sure that I was making good money and taking care of my family. So when I started this business, it was a whole different direction. I literally went from not making very good money in another venture for 6 months to then trying to start another venture. So I'm in just horrible financial place, right? Nothing that I had ever seen before, ever done before. It was an existential crisis for me. But here was the thing. One of my mentors, again, mentors are very powerful. One of my mentors helped me to realize, right? First of all, she told me her story of dealing with that. And then she hit me to this stat, and I'll tell it to you all. 8 out of 10 millionaires, I'll say that again, 8 out of 10 millionaires have been bankrupt or near bankrupt at some point in time in their lives. So the paradigm that I had about making it was that if you're good with money, that's how you make it. If you don't make mistakes, if you don't lose money, if you don't do, that's how you make it. But that's because I wasn't hanging out with millionaires. So I didn't know millionaire stories. I just knew the stories of poor people that was trying to be millionaires, right? And once you learn millionaire stories, what you realize is that actually the people that make it are the people that get knocked down and get back up because they realize that, oh, I can take that. I can get knocked down and I'm okay. So they're willing to do things that other people aren't willing to do anymore, right? And so to that point, so many of you all are worried about making a mistake. So many of you all are worried about not being perfect, right? Getting your idea stolen, not doing it the right way, coming out and your reputation being tarnished because your colors and your branding is all off, all the rest of that. Arthur Anderson was a tarnished company because of the Enron scandal. Many of you all don't even, right? Arthur Anderson was they were consulting and a finance and a tax accounting firm and all the rest of this around the world, around the country, but they were embedded with Enron. They were big in the Enron scandal, everything that happened. Arthur Anderson, everybody was like, they're done. They'll never be back again. Arthur Anderson rebranded themselves as Accenture. And I know people that work for Accenture right now that are making upwards of $5,000 to $10,000 a day as consultants because they're still in big businesses doing stuff all over the world, even some of them making $30,000 a day. The key is you have to know that if you were given this idea, that it wasn't given to you to be executed perfectly because you're not perfect, and therefore you would have never been able to execute it perfectly. So if the only way for this idea to come to fruition was you executing it perfectly, it was pointless to give it to you. So don't get caught up in your mind thinking that you got to be perfect. No, you just have to be resilient. You have to be what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragile.
Anti-fragility, man. I read the book, absorbed the lessons. It's why I do cold showers today. It's why I sleep on the floor sometimes. Because when that pandemic happened, I was going, so what? I've already roughed it out. I know and have experienced that, right? I mean, that was such a gem, everybody. I'd love to stop right there, but let's go on with a couple of other things. And I want to, track some of the things that you said in the rebranding. It speaks to the resiliency.
Yes.
Right. It sticks to we're not stopping. And I guarantee you in that office, somebody says, we're not giving up our name. We're not giving up our name. And someone says, well, you might die with that name. The company might die with it. We have to adjust and adapt and get rid of the public perception of that very, very public failure.
Right. What's more important to you?
Did you hear that? Rob says now, because someone decided, yeah, we're doing this. We're changing. We're adjusting. We're adapting. Right? They took the advice and now someone's making six figures. Did you guys just hear the lesson in that? This is a workshop in itself. This is a webinar in itself. It's not just a podcast. Within this, when we had that title that says trust your way to a six-figure payday, we just gave you the example, right? Will you adjust? Will you adapt? Will you do what's necessary to get yourself to listening to a mentor, a coach, someone facilitating a change in the way you've been doing things, right? Will you do that to get to your six-figure payday? That's the big question for you out there. We want you to answer it by saying, hey, you know what? You will do that. Well, do you need some help? That becomes the next question. Do you need us to help you with that? We'll walk you through it. We'll definitely walk you through it, right? If you do put some words in the comment section, we'll leave, of course, our Gmail account, right? And have you send us a note. I need your help.
Yep.
And then we'll go to work.
And for those of you all to send out a note, send us an email. One of the things that we're going to be doing, and Randy and I we'll put this into our schedule. We're going to be doing for the first 5 people that send us an email asking for help. We're going to do a free half-hour strategy session where literally what we're going to do is get on the phone with you and help you figure out what are your next steps. But that's for only for the first 5 comments, first 5 people to send us an email. So you got to be one of the first 5.
Okay, and we're gonna open this up and we're gonna monitor it, and then we're gonna shut it down after 5. We won't see like, man, they took 55. I could have been the 54th. Right? And that's because we're very, very busy with what we do. And we want you to have some success. We want you to see that success so that you begin your trust journey. Right? We want to get you to that 6-figure payday, but you got to open yourself up. Be willing, right? We're not going to steal your idea. You don't need NDAs everywhere. You don't need that. And in fact, let me go on with this. It speaks to something that I remember Elon Musk said. He was saying that, you know what, I'm going to open my patents on how I did this to whomever, the Boring Company, because I want tunnels dug. I want you to be able to provide to folks, even if I came up with the idea, I want you to be able to use it. Technology for what he's doing in the car space. And now, if you really reverse engineer that, if he had says, well, I don't want other car companies riffing on my idea, stealing my idea, and creating a car that competes with Tesla, he would have already lost, right? Because he would have been suing everybody out there that's doing that. He's saying, I want us to be in an electrified environment. And guess what? Here are the patents. Here's how you do it. Here's how you make it scale. I'm going to do it, whether you do it or not. And now everybody's doing it. I think every car company has an electric version. In fact, some are just saying, I just heard of a company that's saying, we're totally abandoning the combustion engine altogether. Oh my gosh. So in other words, they're going all in, right?
Yep.
And Elon is saying, come ye, come all. We're getting off of the oil.
Yep.
That's that, right? Because he's saying, well, I got battery technology. You want a battery? Oh, yeah, we'll do that for you. Oh, I got some stuff you could put on your roof that can be powered, that can also take some of the energy and put it in your battery pack. You want that too? Oh, he's already thought this through, everybody. He's not worried about whether or not someone's going to steal his idea. He's saying, please.
Right. I got too many ideas to bring it to the world anyway.
Please,
so go ahead. Somebody else make it up.
That becomes a part of it. So if you can have that kind of trust, then you can get yourself to that 6-figure payday.
Ooh, something just came out of that, right? The last piece of trust, right? We talked about trust in other people. We talked about trust in mentors. We talked about trust in employees. We talked about trust in mastermind, peers, etc. The last trust that you just dropped is you got to trust yourself. You got to trust that you don't just have one good idea. You've got to trust that your life and your ability to create is more than just this one thing. Because when you are operating from that idea that I got one shot, right? That's a world of scarcity. That's a world of fear. That's a world of hoarding. But if you realize that if you can create one idea of a way to bring value to the world, then part of your DNA is bringing value to the world. You can create multiple ideas. And now you're not hoarding, you're free flowing of the information because you're coming from an abundance perspective. So trust the abundance of who you are.
Did y'all hear that? That's some inspiration for you today, right? We're encouraging you. We're doing everything we can to empower you with want to work with us kind of a thing, right? And that reminds me of something that James Altucher. Now, if you ever came across some of James Altucher, just if you ever sign up for his stuff, you're going to get emails every single day, maybe every hour, right? And it's because he's got so much stuff to give. He says, you know what? He gives ideas away. And this has inspired me to do something that I got coming up here in about a couple of months, next quarter, I think. So he says he just gives them away. He comes up with so many. So I started doing some of the same thing. I started modeling his stuff because I was getting his newsletters, right? Like every day. And I started modeling that. And I started coming up with so many ideas. He called it the 10 ideas a day kind of a thing, right? So you come up with 10. I had heard that before, 10 ideas a day. And he says, then you just build on those ideas. So eventually what happens now, think about this, 10 ideas a day, 365 days a year. That's a lot of freaking ideas, right? Eventually, you're going to have to find the mechanism by which you give them away. So I just decided now personally is to say, you know what? I'm going to create a YouTube channel that's based on ideas that I have. And I'm just going to put them out there. And then I'm going to also have an invite that says, would you like to collab with me on some of these ideas? That's it. Now, if I were afraid to give those ideas away, they would sit in these tubs that I have collected. Now, this was my way of saying I'm letting go. I'm putting them out there for the world to either come with me and collaborate on them or use them. Some of them you may go, you know what, that idea is already done. Yeah, because I didn't implement it. Now I'm saying here, even starting to build a basic structure. So I literally came up and says, you know what, I'm just going to give them away because I got to get rid of them.
Yeah.
And as I get rid of them, guess what? You empty enough for more to come in.
There you
go. Are y'all hearing that? You empty enough for more to come in. That's why you want to be giving them away, not worried about the other part. Seth Godin said the same thing. Never charge for anything. Just give it away. Right? He says, just give your stuff away. You shouldn't be charging for this stuff, right? And eventually people will start sending you stuff. There's mechanisms for that. I have buy me a coffee. If you like this information and you think it would give you some value, buy me a coffee. A guy the other day, I don't know if I told you this, Rob, bought me 40 coffees.
Nice.
40.
That's how much value you gave.
And then had this really wonderful thing that he said, this guy is going to make me rich.
There you go.
40, didn't ask for it. right? Just the other day, I worked with somebody, I don't know how long ago, right? Now they went and bought me 5 coffees,
Nice.
3 coffees, 2 coffees, 10 coffees, stuff like that. And because I says, here, take this.
Mm-hmm.
Does this help you along your journey? And it's always something that they go, I hadn't thought of that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why I wanted to give it to you. Now, me, I just emptied a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. So when I read James Cleary's book, Atomic Habits, and I've already started it, and on the first 10 pages, I've got like 2 pages of notes.
Yeah.
You now have room to bring more in.
There you go.
Combine that with the other stuff, and you'll start going, wait a minute. This is how ideas happen. Read some of Darwin's stuff on that. You know, I mean, he's controversial and all that kind of stuff, but he says this is how ideas happen and how he would get one. And it was 5 years ago and it connected with this today. And he says, oh my gosh, I can create this. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's stuff that I'm creating now that it's like, oh, I had this thought back here, but I wasn't ready to implement it. I didn't have the experience. I didn't have the knowledge. I didn't have there are programs literally that I'm creating right now that were things that I thought about 5 years ago.
That's right.
But I didn't know enough.
Didn't know enough to implement it.
Exactly.
Is that you out there right now? You didn't know enough? Well, that's why we're saying trust, right? Trust your way to a 6-figure payday or whatever figure payday that means for you. Trust that employee. I got a company that I'm investing in, and I told you a little bit about it. The paperwork is getting signed in the next couple of weeks, right? Anyway, and then I could talk more about it because we'll do press releases and all that.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the first things, and I haven't even introduced this to the people who are going to involve. I says one of the first things that my part of the contribution to this business is going to be, we're going to get with an employee or all the employees and say, here's how we can incentivize your ideation. Here's how we can incentivize the work that you do outside of the work you'll be doing for us that benefits us. Here's how we will pay you, benefit you for that. That's one of the first things, because I want employees feeling like they're empowered, right? To bring an idea. We're going to put your name on that idea. We're going to push that idea out there, and then we're going to pay you based on that. That's how I like to roll, right?
Yes.
Your idea needs to put money in your pocket outside of just the paycheck you get.
Yes.
Right. Now, if you go think about where you're working right now, if you're 9 to 5 and 11 to 7, 7 to 11, whatever you're doing, right? Whatever you're doing out there right now. Think about that for a minute. If you have an employer that says, oh yeah, we will pay you a variable based on what you're bringing into the organization. Right now, you're skipping the work. Now you're at home thinking that you're on YouTube looking, you're reading, because the employer is going to give you the structure of knowing that you got a paycheck coming, but they're going to give you a boost. They're going to give you a variable. We probably wouldn't have this mass resignation, the great resignation, if you had that kind of stuff. That's why people are going out on their own. They're saying, you know what, this person is not treating me right. They're not absorbing my ideas. They're not letting me be. I got to be at the office and not letting me be, right? And if you've got that organization, you may have different, but you got to trust what you're hearing sometimes from your coaches and your mentors. You got to trust your employees to do that for you. Otherwise, they're bouncing. Do you do that right now? Employers, are you doing that right now? If not, call us. We'll show you how. I got a master's degree in organizational development. That's what I do. Rob's got, master's degrees and all kind of other stuff. The law degrees. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, y'all. Come on. Anyway, that's all I got to say. We want to leave you with that, everybody. We hope that you're inspired today with what we're talking about. We hope that you can now say, I have taken a step toward trusting my way to a 6-figure payday.
Awesome. Great being with y'all today. Great talking and chatting it up with you, brother. See everybody next week.